It's a bit dark and gloomy. The reason it's a bit dark and gloomy is because I'm hiding in my bedroom, in the window, as you can see, because I have nowhere else in the house to go because everyone else is using every other bit of space. I don't have an office. So everyone else has their own space. I have the kitchen table, and when that's being used, I'm up here in the window, but it is what it is. Thank you to everyone that has liked, subscribed and shared. It's really amazing actually how many new followers and new subscribers have really helped get the word out, have really helped share a message of discontent, I would say, with this Labour government. And it continues today. I'm hopping mad, truth be told, for two reasons. So the first one is a report just out, or new figures show that the intake into grammar schools has gone up by 10%. So there's an 11 plus test that kids have to do to be able to get into a grammar school, and 10% more have applied for it this year in Kent. Now, they call it the Kent test in Kent. It's the 11 plus everywhere else. And I know this because Bow Property did a very good TikTok on it. I'll link it if I can work out how to do it, and you can watch it yourself. And it talks about the effects of this. It talks about the effects of kids coming out of the independent sector, trying to get into the grammar sector. And Bow Property focus on this from a property perspective, how it's pushing house prices up. And house prices are going up significantly in the areas of these grammar schools. So it's making those catchment areas more exclusive. It's making them unreachable for so many families. It's making grammar school unreachable for so many children because, of course, when more kids apply, then the threshold goes up. So what you've got to do to pass, the percentage rates go up. It becomes harder and harder. So it's becoming more elitist, more selective. Now, of course, we knew this was going to happen because if you take away one avenue of education, everybody naturally has to flood into another one. And this is the one that they've gone to. Grammar school for many is the free private school. It's the free independent school. It's where you get the majority of the trappings of independent school, but the state pay for it. But parents pay for it as well, because parents tutor their children for years in advance to try and get them through the 11 plus test. We all have our own take on whether that's a good idea or not, but it's factually what happens. So keen are they that their children don't go to the local comprehensive, and they either don't support the local independent school or can't afford it. So they put their money into tutoring to ensure a space at the grammar school. Now, when these spaces become flooded because more and more children, so demand goes up, supply is less because we can't just build new grammar schools. And we can't create more spaces. So it becomes extremely elitist. It becomes extremely difficult to get into these grammar schools, particularly the good ones. Some grammar schools only take kids based on how many numbers they've got, others and how they've passed, where they've ranked in their 11 plus. Others will include catchment area as well. So house prices are astronomical in the areas of good grammar schools, which makes it, as I've said, out of reach for many families, and also many people that don't have kids but want to live in that area but can't afford it because the grammar schools push the prices up. So we're already seeing an economic effect. We're seeing a lack of revenue from the independent sector. We're seeing the housing market squeezed because of this, and we're seeing children put under phenomenal pressure to pass the 11 plus to even get a place at a grammar school. Now, people often conflate passing the 11 plus with academic prowess. Not true. The 11 plus is effectively a method of testing how somebody can interpret certain questions to get into the school. It is not necessarily a true reflection of academia. It's more a reflection of how you can pass a test. So because of that, tutors are making an absolute killing in teaching children how to navigate the 11 plus. It's a very specific test. So the tutors are being paid lots of money, which isn't having VAT added to it, of course, because we only have VAT to education at source in the independent sector. We do not add it to source in any other sector. So tutors are making money off it. Kids are being put under horrendous pressure to get into these schools. It's dog eat dog out there for parents trying to get their kids in the schools. And of course, if catchment area is part of the equation, house prices are going up and parents are finding it harder and harder to live in the area where that catchment is. So this is one of the first effects of adding VAT onto education. Obviously, Bridget won't accept that. She doesn't accept that, but it's the actual reality. And if you click on the Bow Property link, you'll see the reel where it's explained from a property perspective, from an investment perspective, perspective, from a community perspective, from what it's doing to the local community. So that's the first bit. The second bit is a very interesting poll that Zia Yousaf shared on X, which really caught my eye for several reasons. So Zia says, fascinating that reform leads among voters who went to state school and grammar school. So reform supporters, the majority of their voters have come from a state or a grammar background. Labour only leads amongst those that went to private school. So the percentage of voters that went to private school, the biggest percentage is Labour. So Zia goes on to say, Labour is the party of the privileged elite, sheltered from the disastrous policies they inflict and out of touch. Now, it's quite a big percentage. You know, the private school, 38% of Labour's voters come from a private school background. That's a lot. That's a huge amount. 25% from Reform and 17% from the Tories. So this completely blows up any myths that we had that Labour Party was the working class party, because it turns out they went to private school. Now, how can we align with that when those voters that went to private school are now actively supporting a manifesto that disadvantages private education, independent education for other children? Well, of course, they've had theirs, so it doesn't matter. So they can move on from that with their ideology because they've pulled up their ladder, no longer affects them. But yet we constantly hear tales of working class Labour. Clearly it's not. Clearly it's far from working class. So why are we spinning that wheel? Why are we saying that Labour is a working class party and we are attacking anyone that has any kind of aspiration, any kind of saving, any kind of desire to have any saving, and any kind of desire to do well in life? Why are we attacking them when they're our voter base? It's a little bit like turkeys voting for Christmas. Now, so many people have defended, or I say so many, some people have defended Labour's policy of adding VAT on education. They are not the ones that went to independent schools, or if they are, they haven't come clean about it, because they're all right, Jack. They've had their education. They've benefited from the untaxed education, so they don't care whether they tax anyone else's. And because we are now being told that they are the elite group, they can afford it. It makes no skin off their nose because they're not the working people. And I've always said Labour only ever tries to connect with the working person because 48% of the electorate say they align with being a working person. So, of course, you want to go with that because that's a big percentage of the electorate. But actually, the reality is so very different. So we've got house prices going up, places in schools becoming elitist, schools closing down on the Education Secretary's watch, and yet Labour have this massive stronghold of privately educated voters. Historically, not presently. Which then moves on to Bridget Phillipson's ideology behind this. She wants equality. She wants to break down barriers, but it would look like the barrier is the Labour Party themselves. It would look like the barrier is the Labour Party elitists that went to the private schools. But we haven't talked about that, have we? Because for so long, until this research came out, we were all working class people and we were having a competition over who lived in poverty more than the other person. Turns out, none of you. So Bridget Phillipson is talking about equality permanently. Everybody must have exactly the same chances. It must all be equal. It must all be fair. We must all be on the same level playing field. We must all have the same education, whether it's shit or not. We must all have the same education. And this has been really bugbearing. It's been a real irritation of mine because I've always been talking about the individual. I've always been talking about how the individual needs to have the quality of education that suits their needs. You've heard me talk about it in hundreds of videos on this platform. Well, today at college, and many of you know I'm studying to be a counsellor. Today at college, we looked at equality and equity. And this is something that I think we all need to think about when we listen to what Labour says. So, equality provides everyone with the exact same resources or opportunities, treating each person identically. Equity, in contrast, recognises that individuals have different needs and circumstances and provides tailored support and achieve a similar and fair outcome. Equality focuses on uniformity, while equity focuses on justice and accounting for disparities and allocating resources based on individual need. Equality, everyone receives the same treatment, resources or opportunity regardless of their individual characteristics or starting point. So Bridget Phillipson is wanting equality. She's wanting everyone to be treated the same regardless of what their aspirations are, what their needs are, what their wants are. I'm saying we need equity. We need to treat people, to give them the same crack at the whip, the same opportunity to have the outcome that suits their needs by treating them, by giving them, by exposing them to the resources and education that fits their needs so that they can be the best version of themselves. Now, you are your best version of you. I am my best version of me. We are not the same. We cannot be the same because we're different. Our DNA is different. Our interests are different. Our makeup is different. We think differently. We have different opinions. We have different outcomes. We live different lives. We live in different areas of the world. You might like to be going out in the town all the time. I'm really happy when I'm in a field. You might like going on expensive holidays. I'm quite happy in a caravan. Well, actually, if it's a big caravan. You might like going to the opera. I love a musical. We're all different. It doesn't make you wrong, and it doesn't make your interests wrong, and it doesn't make your aspirations wrong and your achievements wrong. It just makes them different. And that's where I think this Labour Party have gone so horribly wrong, because they have confused equality and equity. So because it's getting very dusk, I'm going to leave that with you because I look a little bit like a witch sitting here in the window. But I thought that would be some really interesting information to have and something to ponder on, particularly for the diehard Labour supporters who have been sold a very, very different line. So all the information will be there for you to see. Somehow I'll manage to attach it to this. Have a click on it, have a look on it. And I am going to go into this further in the next few days because I think it's really, really important. But ultimately, Bridget Phillipson doesn't understand the product she is trying to sell.